Greetings, YouTube. Bit of a mental health update. This is Zoloft, also known as sertraline generically. It's an antidepressant, and this is the first time in my life since I was 14 that I have tried an antidepressant. When I was 14, my then doctor gave me a prescription for something called Trophanol, which is an antidepressant which is no longer used. In fact, my doctor had never even heard of it when I mentioned it. I mean, this was 39 years ago. And 39 years ago, my doctor was a child, if she was alive. I don't know how old my doctor is. She's not that old. And the prescription was wrong for me. I think it may have just been a mistake that my doctor's handwriting was so bad that they gave me 75 milligrams of Trophanol instead of 25 milligrams of Trophanol, and I spent 3 days walking through Jello. I walked away from the drugs and never went back. But unfortunately, I have entered a new depressive state. And it took me a couple of weeks to figure out that I was depressed because I had not been depressed for a fairly long time. And what triggered my realization was the anger. Because one of my traits when I'm depressed is this constant, unending, seething rage at everything. It is just this low burning fire inside me that never goes out. When I was depressed in the past, and I was completely lost to it before I realized I had depression at all, I would literally spend every waking moment enraged. Part of me would be angry all the time. My jaw would be clenched whenever I wasn't talking. And when I began to pull that apart, and I decided that one of the things I had to do was change the physical manifestation as well as the internal, and I started to consciously not clench my jaw ached like nobody's business. It hurt to not clench my jaw because I had done it for so long. And that was a painful lesson, literally. That sometimes being healthy would take effort. But recently, I have entered a new depressive state. It was triggered by consecutive work weeks where I was required to work 6-day work weeks. Now that doesn't sound like much to some people. I work with people who work 60 hours a week every week, and they have forever. One woman I work with works 60 hours a week, and she is in her late 60s. I can't imagine doing that. I can't work more than 8 hours. At the end of an 8-hour period, I am physically and emotionally done. I hurt, and I just want to get out. So when I'm required to work overtime, I work an extra day. I put a Friday night, which is our Saturday, I put a Friday night in because I work third shift. And I end up with kind of a one-day weekend. It's weird being third shifters. And it isn't just the extra hours that tired me out, but that was part of it. There's less time to bounce back. Don't have those 2 days to recover, because that's exactly what I have to go through every week. And my body gets worn after a few weeks of that. My hands in particular, because I work in a factory and my hands are what I use as tools. And they hurt. And the pain doesn't go away. And if I don't have that 2 days, it hurts more. And then the next week puts even more wear on you. So that was one aspect of the triggering process. The second was that I didn't get to see my wife as often, both because I only had 1 day off, and because of her work schedule, she sometimes has to work Saturdays, and that happened repeatedly. So over like 6 weeks, I worked 6 weeks in a row. I've worked 6 weeks in a row so far. I'm filming this. Hopefully, after the 6-week period is over, I'm really quite looking forward to not working this weekend. We're going to find out what happens. I'm filming this on the 19th. We'll see if I have to work this coming Friday or not. So not seeing my wife was also part of it, because I didn't get to spend time with her. But the biggest trigger for me was that I was not given an option to do the work. This was not something I chose to do. I did not volunteer for any of the overtime that I got. I was forced into it. And the you have to do this, you have no choice aspect is the most significant part of the triggering process for my current depression. Because it was the same pattern as my childhood, as living in an abusive relationship with my family. The you have to do this, you have no choice. So when I noticed it, I made the decision that I needed to step up and make a change. Now I know that I can pull that depression apart on my own without chemical assistance, but it takes a long time and it takes a lot of work. And I'm 53 and I'm tired. And I know I can do it, but I didn't want to. So I contacted my therapist, and he suggested contacting my GP. So I contacted my GP and set an appointment. And when I got off the phone with my GP, having set the appointment, I had a panic attack because I just had made a step that I had never made before. I had made a decision to seek a pharmacological solution to my depression. Because my depression is not just, oh, I feel blue. No, it's because my brain doesn't make serotonin. Because there are synaptic pathways in my brain that have been formed because of the depression. And when I beat my depression last time, I helped form new ones. The problem is that with the depression coming back, that those old pathways are being used again, being reinforced again. And I don't want that. I don't want those patterns reinforced and improved. I want them disassembled. So by using a chemical, by putting serotonin into my brain that it doesn't have, I will help avoid that. Now, one of the immediate effects, I've been on it about a week now, has been that I can break those negative patterns more easily. I found myself regretting something, and it happens. It's part of my pattern of thinking. I will go over things from my past on a regular basis. And it was a silly regret. I mean, literally a very silly regret. And most people would have looked at me and like, why would you regret that? But the point is, I did. And in the past, when I would think of a regret, the emotional impact would be as sharp as though the regret had just occurred. But with serotonin in my brain, I thought of the event, and there was no emotional impact at all. It had no more emotional impact than remembering that my therapist has brown hair. There's no emotional connection between me and my therapist's hair. And suddenly there was no emotional connection between me and the memory of that regret. The second thing I've noticed right off the bat is that I found myself falling into a negative thought pattern while falling asleep. I was just kind of half dozing, haven't actually gotten to the sleep point, and I started thinking about a negative train of thought, which happens for me. And as I began to go down this track, and the literal pathway in my brain is being used here, suddenly my command voice kicked in and just said, "Stop!" And I did. Because I could. Because I had reinforcements. I had serotonin in my brain. So, I'm going to try this for a bit, and we're going to see what happens. Maybe I'll only be on it for 3-6 months. Who knows? Maybe I'll be on it forever. Or I'll find another one that works better for me. I'm not sure. We picked this one because it's a generic and it's cheap. But it was a big step for me to make that decision. That I decided to get help. But I'm seeing this as being no more controversial than the glasses I'm wearing on my face. I wear these because my eyes don't work. I'm taking those pills because my brain doesn't work. And that's just what it is. So if you find yourself in a position where you think maybe a chemical will help you with your anxiety, with your depression, with your PTSD, ask about it. There's no shame. Just do it. There's no more shame than getting glasses or a cane or anything else you need to get through life. We're not perfect. None of us is. Sometimes there are things out there in the world that can make our lives easier, a little better. Use them. Right now I'm using this. We'll see how long it lasts. My father takes an antidepressant regularly because he also suffers from it. My grandfather suffered from depression. I imagine that pretty much everyone male in my family suffered from depression. They were also all raging alcoholics. I've skipped that part. So, if you're depressed, if you're anxious, if you have any other form of mental illness, and a chemical will help you, use it. Help your brain work better. Help see the world in a healthier light. There's no shame in that. And things can get better.